Monday. A beautiful Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock, man. It's 5 p.m. So that was Monday, and I just landed back from what I would like to call a small business trip. I kid you not, I was super excited to trade. Now, I'm a trend follower, right? I always look for buying opportunities on things like the Nasdaq, USD, and gold. Why? Because these things are always pushing to the upside. One guy even asked me this question. I want you guys to comment down below a response for him. He was like, what if I buy gold on a 0.01 lot and just hold it forever because gold will just eventually push up to the top? Comment down below what response you have for this guy. But as for me, yes, that's totally correct, right? Gold, Nasdaq, USD, they always shoot up to the top. As for now, they're on a crazy uptrend. Now, I want you to imagine this, right? You are a buyer and the market gives you the high for the entire week on a Monday. Now, from Tuesday all the way through Wednesday and into Thursday, the market just kept falling and it only created the low of the week on Thursday. Now, right here on the 4-hour time frame, you can see exactly where the market opened on Monday and had two tiny bullish candlesticks leading into, the New York session and then a pause. Right, we can see a stalemate between the buyers and the sellers right at that moment. That is when I knew that, there might be a problem for us for this week, right? And Tuesday opened, the aggression from the sellers was just immediate as the market opened. And you can see the sellers took over the market. It started falling. As a buyer in a market like this, you actually don't stand a chance, right? It's a completely different game when the sellers come in with this type of force. And I just had to step out of the market. That's actually how we ended up with a week like this. I know at the end of a week, we normally just closed in good profit, plus 1,200 pips, in lovely profits at the end of the week, right? But this week we closed off with minus $600 and I only took one trade for the entire week. One single trade. And yes, I know it's almost unbelievable for a trader to take one single trade for the entire week. But yes, just like the book I am currently reading, I'm actually having a new read. This book is a good one. It's called The Disciplined Trader. And yeah, I'd like to say that, I do exercise a lot of discipline when it comes to trading. So I only had one single trade on USD. And after I saw exactly what was happening in the market, I saw both the Nasdaq, USD falling. I saw gold shooting up to the top. I just knew that there's some crazy fundamentals. Maybe the institutions were withdrawing their positions on the stocks and stuff like that, and they're putting more money into the gold market and stuff like that. So that was a huge sign for me that there was absolutely no opportunity for us in the market as the sellers were dominating. So as a good trader, you're just supposed to step aside and let the market do its thing. I did not even then bother looking for another trade up until Friday. I did see a little bit of a break of a trend line and I was waiting for a retracement on that, but then it really didn't happen at the time that I would have wanted it to. It wasn't aligning with my trading plan, and this is a seller's market. I'm a trend follower. I follow the trend through and through. When the trend is going down, I am not participating. And if you think about it, right, protecting your capital is the most important thing a trader can do. You get to trade another week. So I'm already excited for what this current week has for us. It's going to be a really interesting week because I was just marking up the Nasdaq, and USD. I'm about to explain that for you guys, and it's really looking like a really interesting week. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We trade the Nasdaq over here. If you're returning, welcome back. You know what's up. Don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. And obviously, we're going to start off looking at the economic calendar that we have. And on Tuesday, Monday, we don't have any news. It's also not a holiday. We just don't have any news on Monday. During the open of the New York session on Tuesday, we have job opening data and the consumer confidence at the same time. So that's going to cause the market to move up and down. Wednesday, we have ADP, PMI, we have crude oil news, and we're going to have like 3 different news events at 3 different times on Wednesday. So you might just want to check that out. And then on Thursday, we have the initial jobless claims. On Friday, we have NFP. Oh, wait. Wednesday is the 1st of October. Friday is the 3rd. Yo, I had totally forgotten that we're done with September. You know what? August and September are the absolute worst months to trade. And I'm so glad that it's done. All right, so this is going to be an interesting week, right? That's NFP week right there. And then obviously on Friday, we're going to be going crazy. Don't trade news, right? Unless you're ready to blow your account. You wait for the news event to happen, then you see the direction of the market, then you can go in. But now let's go over onto a chart. Let's see what the market is saying for us for this week. So this is our US30 chart. Should we start on US30, or let me start on something that's more interesting, which is gold right now, because I can totally see that gold has given us new highs, and you can see that the market has gone to retest these levels, right? And this is really unusual for gold, because normally when gold is coming to these all-time highs, it's breaking through all of them and just pushing up to the top. It's not having that moment of, you know, a drop, like a retracement. We have a series of 3-hour candles that just pushed this market down. Right now, I've learned my lesson. I'm not really looking for, you know, support areas on these new highs that the market has just formed after pushing up to the top, like with crazy momentum, right? Because that is only for scalpers that are doing the thing on a lower time frame and they're just going in and out. If you're going to be holding the trade for like 1, 2, 3 days, then this type of, you know, support area is not really as strong. And Nasdaq and US30, they really proved that to us. They've been disrespecting every single support area that we were having. You can see that the first support area that would probably have looked at on the Nasdaq was here, because these were highs, broke out of it, disrespected. They gave us a false little push here and then just disrespected them again, and then it came back to the support area, gave us a false little push, disrespected them again. Now if you want to see where the sellers or the buyers are actually dominating in a certain market, right, you look at the type of candles that the market forms. If you notice here, when these buyers were in control, we would have small selling candles and then a big push, right? We had a big push and then the selling candles would be small. Now notice when the sellers stepped in, we have tiny little bullish candles, and then the push that the sellers give would just be like, you know, with great momentum, great force, right? And then they push with little tiny candles and the sellers just step in with great momentum, great force. Then right now at this area, just by looking at this, we already see that there's something like a difference, right? We see that it's almost equal, the buys and the sells on this chart. But anyway, this is not what we were analyzing right now. I was just showing you that the market was disrespecting, in fact, almost all the support areas that we had. You can see this is our second support area. It came back to the top. It gave us a false breakout. This was where our US30 trade was. It hit our stop loss at 46,220, somewhere here. Yeah, somewhere around about this place. So this is where our stop loss was. And you can see this selling momentum candle is what took us up. But then right now I can, you know, see a good sign of bullish momentum there, right? So back onto the chart that we're actually talking about. I hope you have your notebook and your pen out, because that is something that you should actually dot down. Always look out for those things, right? So let us go and do our top down analysis and all of that on gold. We'll start obviously on, just look at this movement on the weekly time frame. This is absolutely crazy. This market has been pushing up with absolutely no retracement whatsoever. Well, that's on the weekly time frame. On the daily time frame, we do have really interesting zones, right, where we saw a little rejection. This was the area here. This is where we saw a little, you know, rejection before the market just reversed and pushed up to the top. So that is what we'd want to consider as our support area on this particular gold chart for this week, right? So I would mark up the zone and make it a support area. So this is a support area, and obviously the highs that it has right now, we just mark them up. That is our resistance area. We already have our resistance and our support area. Now I would want to look to attempt to buy gold at that zone. Why? Because I think that is a more solid support area, right? And if that zone doesn't hold, then definitely we're going to go over to the all-time highs that it broke out of on the 2nd of September throughout to gold has been shooting up for the last 24 days, right? That's where I would probably look for it right now. Let's go over on to a lower time frame. I like to be guided, you know, with a trend line. I like to see confluence of a trend line and support. Yes. Now this is something that we can have, right? And then we would refine our entries. This is what you do on the lower time frames. On the lower time frames, you want to use those to refine your entries, right? Now I've dropped a little bit. Now if you notice, we're going to have this area here where gold broke out of. Let me just mark that up. We're going to have this area here. It was once a resistance area. We broke out of it. It's going to come back and be retested as a support. Now, if you notice, this trend line is it's going to be broken out of. I am not interested in buying gold if it comes back to the support area, because my higher time frame support is going to be in this zone. So I'm going to wait for it to drop a little bit further. Then I'll probably look for an attempt to buy gold in this area. Dropping over onto the lower time frames, that's nothing of paramount importance there, because it's just going to be price action that we're going to be looking at, and this is my area that I'm going to attempt to trade gold. Let's go over onto the Nasdaq just right away, and then I'm going to show you guys the trade that I had and I was looking forward to for this week. It was actually very simple. I think a lot of you guys can already see it right now by just looking at this chart, right? Yes, of course, it was a breakout of this trend line that we had right over here, right? So I was looking at the market as it broke out. So I saw the movement when it was somewhere in this zone, right? And then I already had these 2 points, and then this was a little push. Now I was already expecting that this market is going to come out and break out at this particular area. And yes, of course, the sellers just dropped. Why did I think that? You can clearly see that this is a support area right here. This is a support area. First of all, we have a series of lows that are equal at this area. We have a candle that is wicked up, showing us that there's a lot of, buying pressure that just stepped in at this point. We also have the market coming back to the zone and giving us a similar candle right here, showing that the buyers had stepped into the market. So obviously, this for me was already confirmation, a lot of confluence that the market was going to go and break out of this area. But then the sellers just did their thing, broke out of this zone. But I'm so happy that I wasn't in the trade, right? I was going to wait for it to actually break out first, then I buy. Now we come to the time where it broke out, right? It broke out of the zone at this area. I was expecting a retracement around about this zone here, and then a good place to put stop loss. But when I saw this type of bearish candle, I just knew or thought that it's probably similar to something that was happening and it wanted to drop again, right? So right now you can see that the candles have changed. They're kind of like bigger on the Nasdaq, showing us that the buyers may just be wanting to step into the market, right? I'm going to mark this as a support area right at this level, because this is where the market got rejected, and obviously this is going to be a zone, right? So we do have our 2 support areas on the Nasdaq. We're going to mark up which is going to be our resistance, right? So what we're saying that we would want Nasdaq to come back into these areas, then we can look for a trade, because we always want to have trades that have good risk to reward ratio, right? If I buy right now, I can't really put my stop loss here or here, because it's a zone that the market might just drop back into, right? So we'll go over on to the 4-hour time frame. On the 4-hour time frame, just looking as nice, we're going to pull out our trend line again that we had, and you can see that it's a broken trend line that was retested. Now I want to see where the market is going to go. The next resistance level is going to be right at that spot. Then obviously we have just refined our entry. Let's drop over onto another lower time frame, and then we'll see what that says. Now we're just expecting the market to break out again of this level and show us that the buyers have indeed stepped into this market. Then we're just going to wait for it to come back a little bit to retest, right? We're going to break out, we're going to have a retest, and after that we're going to buy it and ride it up to the top. That's going to be my first attempt on the Nasdaq. Now if that doesn't stand, then obviously we're going to go back onto the daily time frame, reanalyze, and use second support area that I spoke about on the daily time frame. That's said and done. Let us go on to US30. US30 looking just as good as the Nasdaq. I won't waste time on US30 because it's already something that's similar, right? So let's just go straight on to the lower time frames and see what we have there. Obviously this is going to be our support area. We're going to have a resistance right at the spot, and then the all-time high is going to be our next resistance level. Here I can't really draw a trend line, can I? Trend was broken out of here, retested here, and then just pushed up to the top. It also broke out of this little resistance area that we had, came back, retested it in this area, like at that support area, then it's shooting up. So right now we already have a break and a retest on this particular setup. You should have already caught the trade, so there is no trade right now. Again, we're going to wait for it to then push up, do its thing, break out of this area. Then if we get another breakout and a retest, then we want to ride it up to the top. Other than that, we'll just wait for it to drop to the lower levels and yeah, just look for the trades. I don't think this is going to be a really difficult week. If we see good movement, if the sellers don't just start coming in and acting all crazy. But anyway, we don't tell the market what to do, right? We react to what the market does. And we actually do need those retracements sometimes. You just don't want to be caught up, you know, at the wrong side. Also, guys, you should check out this book, The Disciplined Trader. It's a really good book. It was written by Mark Douglas, the guy who wrote Trading in the Zone. Yes, I also have it right here. These are my 3 favorite books: Trading in the Zone, The Disciplined Trader, and The Best Loser Wins, right? With these books, your psychology is going to be on. Yeah. Anyway, nothing complicated as usual. Now, if you did enjoy that video and you found the breakdown helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me? With that, it's Mintino, and I'll see you guys in the next little video. Love you guys.